Well, it's about time for another Patreon album request, and I always say this at the beginning of all of them. I always drag my feet whenever I'm trying to do these, and I'm so sorry that it takes me so long to do them, but I always want to make sure that I get them right. So I like to spend a lot of time with an album, and I know people request them from me because they really, really like them, and they want me to thoroughly enjoy it, and sometimes that doesn't quite work out. And luckily, that's not necessarily the case for this one, because this one was requested by my own dad. So thanks. Let's dive into this week's Patreon request.
This is all my defend you, son. If you die, because you're done.
Zoot, Allures by Frank Zappa. So, I don't think Frank Zappa really needs an introduction at this point. He is the master avant-garde jazz fusion blues guitarist. He defies genre. Like when somebody says that a musician defies genre, Frank Zappa was really the guy that did it first, you know? Like he had so many different things going on that he created a genre all unto himself. It's astounding the amount that he was able to do from his from the first record all the way up until the unfortunate passing back in the early 90s. And just the legacy that he has left for music, you know? Like, if you are a music kind of a person, you at least know of Frank Zappa and what he does. My personal favorite stuff from him is more of his jazz stuff, his more proggy stuff. So obviously I love Hot Rats. As much as I love and appreciate some of the more quirky stuff from like Joe's Garage and Shake Your Booty, it was really more of that jazz stuff that I love. So we come into how do you even want to qualify this? Because the man's output for music was uncharted. 5, 10, 15, 16, 17th studio album within the 10 years up to that point that he had been recording. So, I mean, the fact that this is his 15th, 17th album from that time, when you incorporate all of the Mothers of Invention stuff, it's really saying something. So anyway, one of the things that I love about Zoot Allures was the blending of the two styles of his music. You know, you have that avant-garde, jazzy, bluesy, genre-bending guitar work and musical expression with a lot of these really quirky, fun, almost comedy sketches that he has on there, and it kind of opens and closes with that. The album starts off with Wind Up Working in the Gas Station, which really is this very danceable track. I mean, disco was right around the corner, and that's how it ends with Disco Boy, with, you know, run to the toilet and comb your hair, kind of an essence. But I love that quirky, out of nowhere kind of a style of presentation of music. It's part of the reason why I love Weird Al, and Weird Al was able to give him an homage with Genius in France. And it's this off-kiltered, strange, kind of a build-up. I love the strange aspects to this. Like, it's so strange, because even in and around these quirky, strange tracks that have these really weird kind of time signatures and almost tongue-in-cheek musical aspects, you have these brilliant guitar licks that come out of nowhere. Like the midpoint within Wind Up Working in a Gas Station. Out of nowhere, you have this like jazzy, bluesy guitar work. And then it bleeds beautifully right into the second track of Black Napkins. That really is this blues. Like I'm thinking of like this blues guitar work in this blues bar where like the smoke is coming out, where, you know, he still has that lit cigarette in the frets of the guitars as he's playing away. And I love just where the song goes, and it's so groovy, it's so bumping. It provides such a jaw-dropping beauty within the guitar works in that. And it really goes to show that even though Frank Zappa can just play within the strangest of strange time signatures, he's also able to create such brilliant music in just the very basic of time structures possible. So I love that he's able to balance both schools of musical presentation. And this bluesy, jazzy essence of the music continues with The Torture Never Stops. And I love just how smooth this track is. And the licks on the guitars are just so tangible. They're so meaty. In the background, you hear this woman being pleasured, which a little awkward, seeing that, my dad was the one that suggested that I listen to this. Thanks, that wasn't awkward at all. The music that surrounds it, the reason why this woman's being pleasured, it's almost as though we as an audience are the ones that are being tortured with this musical presentation, this musical buildup that's not really getting allowed to be released until just the right minute. And it's this tease that we have going on with the guitar works that just allows us to be like scintillated in that sense. And then from there we come into Miss Pinky, which opens up with the woman kind of releasing. Trying to think of a proper way to say that. But then we come into Miss Pinky, and it's got this really beautiful drive with the guitars. It's much more tangible. It's a lot less ethereal. It's a lot less wandering Pluto to find out what we can, excavate and find. This one is a lot more sinking your teeth into and really getting into all the nooks and crannies. And it really is a great way to end the first half of the album. We come from two massively impressionistic, jazzy, bluesy guitar works that really just wander the landscape for a good, almost 20 minutes. And we end with this much more tangible, much more realized, much more properly constructed track. And then we come into the second half, starting it off with Find Her Finer and Friendly Little Finger. Those are great track names. But the second side opens up with much more tangible music. It's much more traditional, not quite rock and roll, but kind of that smooth kind of essence. I like that it's a little bit more of a traditional outlet to allow us to open up to more strange things to come. The Friendly Little Finger I love because of how noodly it is. If the first half was much more the smooth jazz and blues, this one's much more of a noodly jazz and kind of avant-garde style where the time signatures are all over the place. It's wavering from one style to the other. I love just how chaotic it is at times. One of the things I particularly love about this is how it bleeds right into Wonderful Wino, because the Friendly Little Finger is just exploring the space. And then Wonderful Wino is this realization again of this bigger sound. It's kind of blending the two ideologies that we've had up until this point of the jazz and the blues kind of essence, where it feels much more like a blues, but it's much heavier. It's a little bit faster than your traditional blues stuff of the day. It's still kind of grounded in that experimentation and wandering the landscape. So I love how Wonderful Wino is a little bit more tangible while still experimenting and still trying a lot of different things. Then it finally kind of caps off. So those first three tracks off of the second side of Find Her Finer, Friendly Little Finger, and Wonderful Wino really do provide about 12 to 13 minutes of just pure experimental music. When we come into Zoot Allures, it provides 4 concise minutes of kind of a summarization of what we've had for this album so far. It is still experimenting. It's still very jazzy and bluesy. It almost reminds me of some of the things that King Crimson was doing with a lot of their earlier albums. It's still experimenting. It's kind of all over the place, but I like how tangible the actual title track is. It's not as just complete chaos for the most part. It becomes this tangible, very accessible style of music. And then of course, it's Frank Zappa, so we have to end with a quirky track of Disco Boy, which I remember loving as a kid. It essentially starts with a Yamaha pre-programmed beat track that those old keyboards would have. And it's just that And I love the fact that it kind of plays into that. And I love just kind of like where this quirky little track goes, very similar to Wind Up Working in a Gas Station, where it's quirky, it's fun, it's not taking itself seriously at all. Like none of these tracks really do. It's just music for music's sake. And I love that it's like run to the toilet and comb your hair. It's fun, you know? The lyrics of this I can't get over. Like, disco boy no one understands, but thank the Lord you still have hands to help you do that jerkin that'll blow out your disco sorrows. Again, thanks, Dad. But yeah, I love how on the one hand it's very nonsensical, but on the other hand it is also very genuine and you know, it's kind of like, well, what else is a teenage boy going to do when he gets bored? So yeah, I love how quirky and fun it is, but yeah, that's kind of where the album ends, and it ends on a very fun, accessible note, which is quite an interesting thing. So that's the whole kit and caboodle for Frank Zappa's Zoot Allures. This album is kind of at a crossroads for me in blending that kooky, quirky, accessible stuff that he does with his more impressionistic, jazzy, avant-garde blues stuff. So this is a really interesting and almost perfect album for Frank Zappa. I mean, all of his albums are perfect in one way, shape, or form. And this one obviously gets a massive recommendation. I think it's a great entry point as well for Frank Zappa. It's not completely all the way off into Pluto the entire time, and it's not completely into Quirksville the entire time. It's got a nice little balance between the two. So for me, Zoot Allures from Frank Zappa, yeah, it gets to pick it up in physical format, for sure. If you don't have it already in your collection, go and find it. As with a lot of Frank Zappa stuff, it might be a little bit hard to find, but if you can, pick it up because it's a great addition to your discography. So that's what I've got for Zoot Allures by Frank Zappa. What did you guys think about this? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Also, let me know what your favorite Frank Zappa project is, what's your favorite style of Frank Zappa's music. Let me know all about that. And thank you again to Mark, or my dad, for donating to my Patreon and making me listen to this one. I had a great time diving into Frank Zappa's work, and specifically this one. And also thank you for just introducing me to some great music, because it's because of you that I listen to the music that I do. So yeah. And if you want to be cool like Mark, you can head on over to my Patreon. I've left a link down below. Even $1 a month goes quite a long ways. You get your name at the end credits. And if you donate enough, like he did, you will get your album review of your choice. So, hey, what's stopping you from doing that? And if you want to see more of me, I've got my podcast, Quid Pro Quo. And yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time.